I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to Highlights.
Who's going to break Smith's world title?
Oh, he's done it! Look at these two go! He's going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been!
Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Road to FSR, the Winter Series at the beginning of 2026. My name is Edward Hunter, and I'm joined by my broadcast director, Amir Oates, and my co-commentator and good friend, Layla Petraglia, who joins me in the commentary box. We've already had one of our three events completed this season. I'm not sure if Amir has got the standings ready to go, but I can read them out nevertheless for those who are interested. Of course, no surprises to see who's on top at the moment. If you were watching last week at Zandvoort, winner of both races was France's very own Alex Lahou, who took 35 points in total, 25 from the feature, 10 from winning the reverse grid sprint. Of course, the feature being 30 minutes, the sprint being just the 15. Mark Schluter is second on 25 points, 10 behind, having finished second in the feature. And Loic Moynier is third, having finished third in the feature as well on 23 points, just 2 behind Mark Schluter. The rest of the top 10 is made up of Lucas Murno and Danov Brandtholm on 18 points apiece. Ruben van den Hudding is 6th on 14 points. Janis Braksok, a lot of bad luck for him. He just got the one podium in the reverse grid. He is 7th on 10 points. And you can see those standings right in front of you as well. Amin Sweezy from the Cellsport Racing team, he is equal of Janis Braksok, also on 10 points. Then the top 10 is filled out by Giuseppe Canzanieri and David Akhayan. So there we go. So Cam Roger, El Presidente, just missing out on the top 10 in P11 for those interested. But he is at the highest place of those who've had administrative roles in FSR, to my knowledge. Unless you count Canzanieri. But so Giuseppe might want me to do that. But anyway, nonetheless, very, very exciting times ahead then. Laguna Seca, of course, very different circuit to Zandvoort with 11 corners, of course, on the layout, including, of course, the fearsome corkscrew. Starts with the Andretti hairpin, turn 2 after that, turn 1 kink. And yeah, it's a really challenging layout that's really going to see these F3 cars, these Titus chassis pushed to their limits. I think Layla might be ready to chip in now. So I'll just throw to Layla, say hello, welcome to FSR in 2026, Layla. And it's great to have you with us.
Yep.
And we should have at least a good 15 drivers putting on a bit of a show today. And is there anybody you've got your eye on of those that are taking part? Of course, Alex Lola leading the standings. We don't think he's present today, so he might be taking a bit of an off round, although he's got the lead to do it, admittedly. But the likes of Schluter, Machete, Braksok, they should be the ones that we might be wise to keep an eye on.
I mean, probably Shooter, considering I know his pace is great.
He is the reigning champion.
So yeah, he being the reigning champion. Definitely eye on Shooter, but also want to keep an eye on good friend Edward in the grid. So yeah.
Yeah, Edward, whose last name, Edward Gluckle, whose last name I've been butchering throughout the entirety of the Zandvoort broadcast. The first name I do know very well because it's also my first name, which makes it slightly more straightforward. And I think Edward did appreciate that I was quite lenient and nice to him because we share the same first name. So yeah, I think certainly he was a little bit off the pace, I think, admittedly, in that first encounter. So let's hope he has a bit more luck this time around, as I believe we're just under 2 minutes away from the start of qualifying. Of course, this is the prize we should mention for winning this series is free entry to the World Championship in 2026, of course, which does get underway. Currently, we're scheduled to get underway 1st of March then. So it sounds a long way away, but it's probably going to be here before we know it, and joined, of course, by Pro and hopefully Academy Championships as well if we've got enough drivers to fill them. And there you can see Laguna Seca today, 11th of January, and the finale will be Donington Park, which of course was the third most popular of the 5 tracks we put up for vote. So we're sort of doing them in order of most to least popular, although not that Donington was, as I say, unpopular. It was just of those that got through, the least popular. So yeah, Laguna Seca, of course, should be famous for its elevation changes, of course, especially that downhill plunge, basically from turn 6 all the way down to turn 11. That's going to be really, really fun to watch through Rahal Straight, the corkscrew, rainy curve, and then 10 11, of course, the last couple of corners. So it is going to be, of course, it's a slightly smaller venue than, say, Circuit of the Americas and the sort of full Grand Prix level circuits. But Laguna Seca in sunny California, it's a very, very old school circuit. We're not expecting rain, of course, this time around, but we said that in Zandvoort and we were proven immediately wrong. So that's going to be an interesting factor for sure.
Yep. Also considering that the corkscrew with rain, it's gonna be the most painful corner ever to exist, probably. But yeah.
We got a message here from Typhon UK, which is Alex Hallows. He says, "I don't know about you guys, but I think that Alex Hallows guy might do well." So be interested to see how he gets on, because we've I don't think Alex Hallows has raced in FSR for a couple of years since is it 23 or 24? Was the last time we saw Alex Hallows in action in Academy Championship. So yeah, should be exciting to see how he gets on. Might be able to, especially with a slightly lower attendance, he might be able to get into a reverse grid draw and become a factor for the sprint, certainly. So certainly you ideally want to be lower end of the top 10, really, to maximize your chance of really taking advantage of that. And also getting a few good points in race 1, admittedly. Anyway, we cut now as qualifying begins to the track here at Laguna Seca, and as I said, bright and sunny, and you can see there's one of our drivers weaving around trying to build temperature. It is, of course, David O'Reilly, our race director from the World Championship, and a co-commentator as well. I guess the main reason I haven't got David co-commentating is he's participating. So we got Layla, who will nonetheless do a fabulous job as expected, and David. Hopefully. I'm not trying to put too much pressure, but yeah, David going through the corkscrew now. You rise over the crest. It is a wonderful corner to drive, and then you go all the way down through rainy curve. Rainy curve always a bit of a deceptive corner because you sort of meet it after the corkscrew. It's a little bit of a blind one. You sort of got to chuck it in and hope that the car has enough grip at the front to get you through without understeering off into the gravel. Out of 10-11, the final corner now he comes, and David O'Reilly. Of course, it's a private session. They're all circulating at the same time here as he rises the crest into the Andretti hairpin. Another corner. It's very difficult to spot the breaking point. O'Reilly meets the first apex, meets the second apex, gets over the curb, and then continues on up towards turn 3 and then 4. So this is where you've really got to make sure you are careful with the track limits, especially coming out of 4, as O'Reilly is doing now. And O'Reilly's the Australian, judging it pretty well in that Servo Narrows F3 car.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Sector 1, if I have to be honest, it's what I found to be the hardest part of the track, even though it's only like, 5 corners? Probably.
It's probably one of the tighter parts as well, with that hairpin, and then it gradually speeds up before you get to the corkscrew, essentially, where it tightens up again. And there we see wonderful helicopter shot as David negotiates it and again swings into rainy curve. Rainy curve's a bit awkward because you're a little bit, you sort of got to go back to the outside to the racing line out of turn 8, essentially, and then you've got to make sure you don't run too wide on your entry into 9. As there we see one of the Optiminals completing a lap. Currently, it is Mark Schluter there you just see now, who sets the fastest lap of all for the old Go Team squad that he won the championship for. 1 minute 13.926 then. So he's just beaten the time that we saw Braxock set there by 0.08 of a second there. And then we've got Amin Sweezy, who's the next quickest 0.8 down though. So Sweezy, who we saw put in a couple of qualifying heroics for the Cellspot team in the Pro Championship, the course that you were competing in, Layla, as well. So Amin Sweezy, the Tunisian, carrying on his form. He was quite strong in Zandvoort, actually, as we saw, just inside the top 10, top 8, I should say. As here comes one of the valet cars. That looks like Massimiliano Riboli, setting a 1 minute 15.2 and getting into 5th position. Ooh. And that looks like Ruben Machete getting very sideways out of turn 10. Turn 10 is another one where you can carry a little bit too much speed. It's essentially a 45-degree right-hand there, but there's a massive gravel trap on the exit there as Ruben dipped the rear tyre into it. So, yeah, Ruben Machete, of course, took a last-gasp pole position, didn't he? As we see Cantoneri now going third fastest with his teammate Dano Brandfom, only 4/10 behind. So they are starting to close the gap to the two leaders lap by lap here, which is very, very interesting because, of course, having them all in the F3 car, which is a big change of pace from the usual FSR Grand Prix level car, as we see Edward Gluckle just skipping a whole part of turn 10 there. I think that's definitely a track limits violation if I've ever seen one, especially in qualifying.
Yeah.
But I guess Edward is looking for every little advantage to sort of shave time off and catch up to the rest of the pack there. Doesn't look like that's a 127 he's just set there, so I don't think that's helped him at all, really.
Yeah.
There's Zabralekis. Unfortunately at Zandvoort, there was a bit of an issue getting the name in there into the game, so it just said your name, but Zaba, we've rectified that now, and Zaba P9 at the moment, 115.7, so one of the optimal drivers. Apart from Braxok, it looks like they are having a bit difficulty getting a clean lap in, and I think maybe that's the challenger of this circuit, as Braxok, speaking of which, the Hungarian sets the fastest first sector so far, as he goes uphill down, up the Rahal straight, because of course it's an uphill incline before it drops after the corkscrew. And let's see, as he goes towards the Sector 2 timing line, whether he can get anywhere near or indeed can exceed Mark Schluter's pole lap at the moment.
I mean, so far, Max Schluter very close between the times between Braxok and now it's all about if Braxok can nail those 8 hundredths of a second left to overtake him in the starting position.
Yeah, there we go. So the lap completed, it's a 1:14.092, so slower than his previous effort. You saw, actually, he was really committed but through Sector 2, you had to have a bit of correction for turn 10 there. So it's those last 2 sectors that weren't quite as spectacular, where the time ebbed away from him there. Now Schluter starts another run with just under 4 minutes left on the clock. Oh, and Alex Hallows, we said, watch out for me. Well, it looks like he needed to watch out for the wall, and he's in P10 at the moment. So Alex, 2 seconds off the pace, pushing the limits as he tries to find a few extra attempts there to catch up to Zabralekis then. Meanwhile, here's Ruben Machete, still with no lap on the board, as we saw him flirting with track limits earlier on. Him and Terry Crawford, the only ones yet to set valid laps in this session so far. Machete, first 2 sectors, he's a little bit off Schluter and Braxok, so he's looking sort of for 3rd or 4th at the moment, as we see Machete crossing the line and goes 4th behind Giuseppe Cantoneri. Purple final sector for Ruben there, so last 2 corners very, very strong for that Optimal.
I mean, nailing also Sector 1 is big part of where you either gain time or lose time, because if you go slightly wide into turn 4, you're just in the gravel. There's no runoff area or nothing.
Oh,
it's just
Schluter, purple in Sector 2. Oh, but he's gone into the pit entry there, so he's abandoned that lap. It was 29.0 in the middle sector, faster than anybody else so far, as we got just over 2.5 minutes left in the session then. So the order currently stands. Schluter still those 800s ahead of Janos Braxok. The first times were the best then, so it does look like this is a circuit where you can sort of trick yourself into pushing a little bit too hard, trying to chase lap time, and it can really bite you then. Ruben van den Hudding, Ruben Machete, Dano Brandfom, Amin Sweezy all improve, as they are 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th respectively, as there is David O'Reilly in 12th at the moment. 1:16.4 is the current best lap time that he's just set, 3/10 off Alex Hallows then. So yeah, O'Reilly and Hallows definitely, I don't want to say chasing their own tails, but they're really trying to find lap time to get them that just close enough to maybe sneak into the top 10 here.
What's confusing me is that Terry Crawford is not actually setting the lap.
Yeah, it's confusing me too. I think Terry maybe is strategically decided to start from the back. This is his first appearance of the season, of course. The SimSpark driver was, I don't think, able to make Zandvoort, so we'll have to see if he's got something special in the bag and how much practice indeed he has done. Edward Glickl has set a slightly better lap time, only 1.6 seconds behind Mihailo Vincentievic, so 5.8 seconds off the pace. That's certainly better than the... he's gained about 8 seconds from his first lap, which was a 127 instead of 119. So that is certainly commendable then. As we look at Vincentievic, the MV Conquest over the line. Is he going to go faster? Yes, he does. Pulls 2 seconds clear of Ed Glickl. And Vincentievic 1 second off David O'Reilly. So actually pretty close on the fringes of the top 10 there, as O'Reilly, speaking of which, goes P11, just gets ahead of Alex Hallows, and he's only 1.7 off of not 1.7, 0.17 off of Zabraleki's 10th place time then. So there is Canzoneri starting another lap after a bit of a slow build-up lap there in the final 30 seconds. Ruben van den Hudding, we cut to, has set personal best in the first sector as he swerves across to prepare himself for the braking zone to the corkscrew. It's another blind braking zone, of course. You've got to make sure that you don't disappear over the crest of the hill and forget where the curb is. Looks like Ruben van den Hudding very, very committed is the Dutchman, as the front end just complaining as the downforce kicks in at the last moment. 29.4 in the middle sector, so it's all about the run out of this final corner there. The valet gets the power down. This is going to be his final attempt then. Towards the line he comes. Will it be P4 still for Ruben van den Hudding? He does not improve. He's a 10th off. We cut to the pink, is that the Team GG car of Alex Hallows then, going through the final corner. Just about meets the apex there and gets on the power fairly late, but does get a decent momentum out of that final corner. Alex Hallows, will he stay 12th? Yes, he does, but only 13 thousandths behind David O'Reilly, so super close in that titanic scrap for P11 essentially. And we're just seeing last couple of runs finishing now. Here is Ruben Machete. By his high standards, he is under-delivered so far, but personal best in the first 2 sectors, but he's pushing the limits like a little bit too far into turn 10, unless that was lag. But let's see then, will this lap count as he powers towards the line? Can Machete improve on 5th position? Yes, he can. That's P3 for Ruben. So looks like either the track limits have suddenly become a lot lenient, or the gravel has somehow made his car faster. Here comes Sander van Leeuwen. His final run about to conclude. Will he stay P9? Unfortunately, I think he has. Yes. Oh no, he improves to P8 with the a very good final sector actually, and goes ahead of Massimiliano Riboli. So late improvements from the Optiminals, but it is Mark Schluter that will start the feature race on pole position. So very competitive session, Layla, but really the pole time was set right at the beginning. Ruben Machete, 85 thousandths behind his teammate Janos Braxok. So only a 10th and a half separates the top three.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are always generally close between each other, so it is expected to see a quality this close, but now it's just about who has the better race pace now going into the race. So
I've just been corrected, by the way. It was not Ruben Machete in the gravel, it was Zabraleki. So they switched to another Optiminal who was just so happened to be at the exact same point on the track then. So Zabraleki's the lucky escape. He will start P10, but Ruben Machete crucially up to P3. So let's look at the starting grid in totality then. Mark Schluter on pole position narrowly from Janos Braxok. The two really peaked early on, whereas Ruben Machete peaked right at the end and crucially got himself onto that second row. Then it is 3 valets in a row. Canzonieri, Van den Hudding, and Dan Overbranfom. Just 2/10 separate the three of them, with Van den Hudding and Canzonieri indeed, as expected, very, very closely matched as they have been in pro all season. Amin Sweezy, 7th on the grid, still within a second of pole position. Then we got Sander van Leeuwen in 8th, Massimiliano Riboli 9th, and Zabra Elekis rounds out the top 10, 1.7 seconds off of Schluter's pole lap there. Rounding out the grid, we have David O'Reilly, Alex Hallows for Typhoon eSports, not Team GG, of course, the bright purple and pink car, I believe, Typhoon eSports. Mihaila Vincentievich is P13. Edward Glickle is 14th for the Mission 19 Vela 1 GP. It's the sole Mission 19 V1 GP car. And then we got Terry Crawford, who decided to sit the session out. I don't think there was any penalty hanging over him, so he could have taken part if he wanted to, but Terry's decided start either from the back of the grid in the pit lane, let the others crash into each other, and profit, which, to be fair, given the chaos we saw in Zandvoort, is not a bad call from SimSpark or from Terry Crawford, indeed. But yeah, we'll have to see how they get on. You can see that it's a pink and white Typhoon eSports car. It's very, very... I want to say Venus GP coded, which Layla will know exactly what I mean by that.
Yeah,
from Alex.
it's missing the black though.
It is, yes. But maybe Alex will add to it. It does look a little bit like one of those liveries where he's put two colours on, put a number on, and maybe a logo for the team. And he's he's put a fair bit of work in, but not more than he had to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, the Venus car was peak. The Venus design was a peak design.
Yeah, it's a shame we never got to see you flip it like we saw the ERK livery. Anyway, so now
I was close to it.
We got a very, very short warm-up then before our first race begins. And Layla, of course, it's really going to be about those top three. We know, of course, Machete and Schluter had a little bit of contact. We know Braxock and Machete had showed some contact into turn one as well on the first lap, where Braxock got pumped into the inside wall at turn one and lost his front wing, which left him with a bit of a mountain to climb in that first race of the season in Zandvoort, where Braxock was ultimately able only to get up to P12, which is sort of given a bit of a knockback in the Winter Series Championship. And of course, he is a previous Winter Series champion back in 2020. We should point out Janos Braxock. So while he did have to wait a long time for his first FSR Grand Prix World Championship victory in Mexico at the end of last year, he has won in the Winter Series before. So we should acknowledge that specific part of history as well, given that we're all repeating it. but yeah. Those top three, I think, are probably going to be the ones that steal the headlines. But I think those three valets in 4th, 5th, and 6th of Van den Hudding, Brandholm, and Canzonieri, I think they're going to be really interesting to watch. Will they choose to work together and maybe pick up the pieces in that fight for the podium if maybe Machete, Raxock, and Schluter come together again?
I mean, if they work good enough together, they're gonna have a Vale lockout in the entire podium, so...
It could happen. You never know. And certainly, Vale have been... they've won a couple of pro races, especially Van den Hudding was very, very impressive. Canzonieri 2, winning the opening race of last season in Bahrain, whereas Van den Hudding had some brilliant defensive drives to help Canzonieri's title hopes, but also had two brilliant wins in, I believe it was Austria and Singapore. The two pro races that he won. And at the moment in the warm-up, Van den Hudding setting the fastest lap 1:15.7, but that is some way off. Of course, Mark Schluter's 1:13.9 from qualifying then. And is there anybody else we should be keeping an eye out for? Of course, Sweezy and Van Leeuwen in 7th and 8th. Sweezy, of course, was pretty solid and impressive at Zandvoort against some tough competition, finishing 7th and 8th in both races. So he'll be hoping to go, I think, one better and maybe sneak into the top 6 if he can maybe get past Brandholm at the start, of course. Although the Super Swede will not be easily overcome, as we saw. He put in some pretty fighting drives in Zandvoort, 4th and 6th himself as well. So yeah, Dano Brandholm, it was certainly good to see him return after basically a year away from FSR, back with his old Valet team. And yeah, certainly Valet and Optiminal are filling the vast majority of the grid in the Winter Series, although it is great to see some of our new drivers getting a chance to get to grips with FSR and, of course, the changeable weather that's returning for the full Grand Prix season as well, which I'm sure you're excited about as well, Layla.
Especially when I'm going to be driving in the Pro Car. I'm going to be so happy about it. I'm not rain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also in GPV as well, so you know, might as well get used to it.
I did my debut in the rain.
You did, yes, I remember now.
In GPVC, Singapore rain
Oh,
for the
God.
first race.
You do seem to make a habit of having those baptisms of fire at Singapore, one of the most notoriously difficult circuits on the Grand Prix calendar.
And I survived.
Yes, you are a survivor. Anyway,
Indeed.
so warm up very, very nearly concluded, and this is going to be fascinating to see. I do wonder if, again, Terry Crawford's strategy of giving qualifying a miss and deciding to let the carnage play it in front of him, whether that's going to pay dividends or whether Terry is going to see a very, very calm start and wish that maybe he'd cleared Gleckel in qualifying rather than waiting for him to get past him at the exit of the pit lane.
I mean, hopefully, he probably does. I don't know. I hope he has the pace to eventually like catch up, because
Him and
he
David
starts from
O'Reilly
pit-
were fairly closely matched in some of the pro races, so yeah, it could be interesting. I think that's a Terry Crawford. I've done some commentary on him before a couple of years ago. Very, very smart driver, very analytical. Knows he's not necessarily the fastest. You see Terry Crawford disappeared from server as I speak about him, so maybe I was giving him too much praise there. It was literally, as I said, he knows he's not the fastest, which, to be fair, I don't think he's the only driver that's not the fastest. But everyone apart from Mark Schluter could probably say that at the end of that qualifying session, for instance. But yeah, let's hope Terry can get back in, because of course he is, I believe, driving, connecting in from Australia. So, but anyway, there's the rest of the grid about to leave on the formation lap, and indeed they depart the grid now with Mark Schluter at the head of it. You can see there more of that lovely elevation of California and Laguna Seca there as he disappears under the hill. It does feel like Schluter is not hanging about on this formation lap then, but let's look at the grid once more. Mark Schluter and Janos Braxok make up the front row, with Ruben Machete and Giuseppe Canzonieri occupying row 2. Row 3 is all valet. It's Ruben van den Hudding and the super sweet Dan Overbrandvom in 6th. Row 4, Amir Sweezy just ahead of Sander van Leeuwen in the Optimum. Row 5 is Massimiliano Riboli just ahead of Sabrelli, who rounds up the top 10. David O'Reilly has got Alex Hallows for company, as we see somebody has dipped in the gravel on the formation lap. And it could well be that the server has reset then, because that looked like more than a bit of a mess as I get completely distracted from the starting grid. But yeah, there we go. Last couple of drivers, we've got Mihaila Vincentijevic 13th, Edward Gleckel in 14th, and hopefully Terry Crawford, who has just connected back into the server, will either be starting 15th or from the pit lane exit, whichever he chooses to do, really. I think 107% rule probably doesn't apply.
Probably not.
So, Layla, if we have to... Layla, if we have to do the grid again, do you fancy reading it out for a change? Repeating the same information that I've just given twice now, I guess.
I'll try. I hope I don't butcher some names.
Oh, we could do it in reverse. Amir is offering we do it in reverse, which I guess is a fun way of doing it.
Yeah, do it in reverse. Sure.
Yeah, anyway, so we'll wait for the drivers to repopulate the grid then. But this will certainly be a bit of a distraction. It'll certainly put some of the front runners a little bit off, because the more a start gets delayed, the more a little bit of impatience, frustration tends to creep in, and the drivers have got to reset themselves and go through their sort of mental pre-race ritual. Not mental as in crazy, but in their heads, the way they think. So yeah, they're not all licking Lucky Charms before the race or anything like that. No, they're just thinking through processes. So Mark Schluter leads the formation lap again, and Layla, I think we're about to see the reverse starting grid pop up here. No, it is the full time.
No. Okay. I go. Alright. So, in the first row, we have Mark Schluter, something like, and it's on.
Janos Braxok, Ruben Machete, Giuseppe Canzonieri.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start from the top. Because Layla was...
So, Mark Schluter is starting first alongside Janos Braxok. Then we have Ruben Machete and Giuseppe Canzonieri in the second row. Then for third row, we have Ruden van den Houding and Danov Brato in third row. Then Amir Sweezy and Sander van den Leeuwen in fourth row, yeah? Massimo Riboldi and Xavier Elekis in 5th row, David O'Reilly and Alex Hallows in 6th row, and Mihailo Vicentovic and Edward Glockel for the last row, and we're not seeing Terry Crawford.
Not on there, but he is showing up on stream. There he is. You can see in that dark red and green SimSpark, which is a nice. SimSpark always seem to do some sort of green in their liveries. Last year it was bright green and silver of all colours, which was very distinctive. And yeah, certainly Terry Crawford certainly got a few good points finishes in that particular car in the Pro Championship, and he's hoping to add a few more here for SimSpark. Especially, oh no, he was actually at Zandvoort. I forgot about that, but he finished 17th and 14th in both races. So sadly, just a couple of places outside the points then. But Terry Crawford will be taking the start, which is encouraging. So that means we've got 15 cars ready to do battle here. And yeah, I do apologise for putting Layla on the spot there, as it looks like Edward Gleckel has come to a stop on the formation lap. Stuck in the second gear at the inside of turn 5 there. So that could be a bit of a hazard if the race ends up starting without him. So Ed, I hope Ed is not... In the first race at Zandvoort, he didn't put enough fuel in. So I really hope he hasn't run out of fuel on the formation lap, because that would be particularly embarrassing. I know this is his second ever event in rFactor 2, but Ed looks stranded there. There we go, teleporting back to the garage. So he is out of harm's way at the very least, but I don't think we're going to be seeing an awful lot of him at the start of this one. So lights out, and we are underway here at Laguna Seca, and Schluter is under attack from Braxock on the run into the first corner here. As you can see, Van and Hudding going up the inside of Machete into the Andretti hairpin. Schluter still defends the inside, forces Braxock the long way round. Oh! And somebody off track there. Was that, Sweezy, I think, was heading straight to the scene of an accident there. He's got out the wall quickly in P13, but that's not the start that the Tunisian would have been hoping for. Terry Crawford breezes past him, so the order midway through lap 1 is Schluter, Braxock, Machete, holding on from Van den Hudding there, so Van den Hudding makes a good getaway. Canzoneri is 5th, Riboli is still 6th, Sander van Leeuwen is P7, and Hallows is dropping down the field. He's had a spin coming into turn 5 there, and that's dropped him to P13. So Zabralekis, who himself has had a bit of a tricky start, falling from 10th to 12th there, and giving another position to Amin Sweezy, who picks off Terry Crawford into the corkscrew there. Doesn't look like any of the cars are too badly damaged. I didn't see anybody wandering around with no front wing. As we look at Riboli holding off Sander van Leeuwen, who's made a bit of a rocket start, gaining a couple of places from 9th on the grid.
Yeah. Also, Ruben van Leeuwen making a beautiful move around the outside in the corkscrew.
Machete, yes, to get into P3. And Sweezy recovering. He's about to attack Mihailo Vincentievich, who's gone from almost on the back row of the grid up to P9, but he's back down to 10th now as Sweezy cuts across the inside at the Andretti hairpin and gets back into P9. So Sweezy, having dropped to 13th on the opening lap, having started in the top 7, is on a bit of a mission to get back where he feels he belongs, as he chases now Dano Brandfarm 2 seconds ahead of him. Meanwhile, Braxock trailing Schluter by half a second. Van den Hudding still 8/10 behind the both of them, and holding up Machete quite convincingly at the present moment.
I like his kind of went almost risked going off there. He was very close to the gravel.
Yeah, certainly taking risks to catch up to Alex Hallows, who's back up to P11 now. So a lot of mistakes, very late on the brakes from Zabralekis. But that means he sort of has to avoid colliding with the back of the Typhoon car, doesn't he? He nearly caused the Typhoon there. As you can see, Vincentievich starting to hold both of them up here. So Vincentievich, having had a very clean start to the race, now finds himself under attack from Hallows and Alekis. Hallows said, "Watch out for me," before qualifying, didn't he? Well, we're going to see what he's made of here as he gets a good run down the start finish straight on the long run into turn 1.
Alekis is really out to substitute from
The inside goes Hallows, and Vincentievich leaves room, and the Englishman Alex Hallows up into P10 now. So that was a good move from the Typhoon drive. Vincentievich was being caught down the straight, and Hallows positioned his car very, very well there to take advantage.
Now it's up to... Oh! I was about to say it's up to Elekis to catch Visinkovic, but it goes wide into the gravel.
Yeah, it's going just a little bit too wide there. Fastest lap of the race, by the way, set by Ruben van den Hudding, who's about 4 tenths behind Braxok and Schluter. So, if anything, 1:15.29 for Ruben van den Hudding, whereas Schluter's on the 1:15.5s, Braxok on the 1:15.6s. So, yeah, these two sort of slowing up their pace, and it's playing into Van den Hudding's hands here. He's had a really fantastic opening couple of laps here as we're about to start lap 4.
Ruben now under the slipstream, trying to catch up to Braxok. Will he make a move from the outside?
Risky, he really doesn't. Braxok has already been taken out of the lead by Ron Squire, memorably in Zandvoort when he was trying to lap Ron in admittedly Ron's first FSR race in 8 years, so we've got to cut him a little bit aside. But yeah, I think he was immediately apologetic to Janos, and to be fair, it's not like there's a World Championship on the line, so I don't think Janos will be too vengeful after that one, although a bit of frustration to see a win slip through his fingers because of it. But now Van den Hudding has an opportunity to do a bit of a giant killing feat here for a man who's won races in pro to be in contention for victory against a world champion and an FSR World Championship race winner as well in Janos Braxok, and a previous Winter Series champion as well. So this is star-studded competition, and Ruben van den Hudding is proving that he wants to make a name for himself, that he belongs up with those names as well. Gets a good run out of turn 10, considers a move into 11, decides to tuck in and bide his time as the front end. He gets so close to the back of Braxok that the front end snapped it a little bit on him there. He's controlling it beautifully, and the Dutchman weighing up his options here. So this is really starting to play into Schluter's hands, because Braxok ever so slightly starting to defend here into turn 1.
Yeah, if they start a battle here, Schluter can just straight up run away and never have to deal with them the entire race, unless a mistake's come in by him.
Yep, certainly there's been a fair share of mistakes in the rest of the field. Oh, was that Schluter just flirting with the gravel at turn 4 there, as he tries to use a little bit, all of the track and a little bit beyond it as well. You can see here Machete sort of biding his time, hoping that Braxok and Van den Hudding will, and Schluter will all start to just hold each other up, and he can become part of this podium fight as well. Canzonieri as well is actually the fastest of the top 5 at the moment, with actually fastest man on track at the moment, 1:15.4, 3 tenths quicker than all of the 4 leaders in front of him. So it's turning into a 5-horse race here, and I wonder here, is this Schluter genuinely in trouble as we see a bit of an incident happening there? That looked like Aleki's trying to go around the outside. I think Alex Hallows into, or is it Vincentievich? Sorry, I think it might have been Hallows. Yeah, it was Vincentievich into the corkscrew. Found there was no room and ended up heading straight into the gravel there. So no luck for Zebra Aleki's in this race so far, because I think that's the second time we've seen him dip the wheels and make a few sandcastles. Here's Van Leeuwen trying to go around the outside of Ripley, having to back out of that one and rethink his plan of attack. Brandbaum's starting to close on both of them in this battle for P5. And yeah, we're seeing, oh no, P6, sorry. Canzonieri continues to be fastest man on track as he starts to close the gap. And actually, Machete's got past Van den Hudding on this lap, so I think Ruben has made a mistake somewhere in the first sector there.
Yep, that's the only part of it. Where could you have made the move though?
Maybe into turn 1.
Oh, he made a move. No, he made a move into turn 6, should be 6?
Oh, okay, so sort of uphill going into the straight lane. That is unusual. And yeah, Van den Hudding caught out, so Ruben maybe saving his tyres a little bit to start not being quite as aggressive. Now he's got his teammate Braxok right in front of him. So do the two Optiminals decide to go for personal glory here, because there's no teams championship in the Winter Series, or do they work together here to try and put pressure on Mark Schluter? Because of course Machete now can hold Van den Hudding at bay, so that Braxok's got a bit of breathing room. So if a move maybe doesn't go quite to plan on Schluter, he maybe can get back in front of Machete and Van den Hudding before things go wrong, as Machete kicks up a little bit of dust on the exit of turn 4 there.
Yeah, but basically, if I have to say, this race is also gonna be a big race of endurance. To like keep your cool and not go in the gravel, because as soon as you touch that gravel, your race is done.
Yeah, indeed. Just ask poor Zabraleki. Still going in P13, and certainly Edward Gleckel a lap down. Unsurprisingly, the first to go a lap down, although it's taken 7 laps, so that's still not quite as bad as Zandvoort, where I think he's being lapped on lap 4 or 5. So, meanwhile, David O'Reilly all over the back of Vincentievich. Vincentievich second personal best, 1:18.6s, but David O'Reilly nearly 9/10ths quicker on that previous lap than in this fight for P11. Could well be significant come the reverse grid draw, but David O'Reilly doesn't get a great exit from the corkscrew. Meanwhile, here is Van Leeuwen trying to find a plan of attack to get past Massimiliano Riboli, who's in fact got past him on the run at the final corner into turn 1 there, I believe. And meanwhile, here's a move for the lead. Braxock up the inside of Mark Schluter coming out of turns 2 and 3 and 4. And Janis Braxock takes the lead then with 20 minutes left to go here at Laguna Seca then. So it looks like Schluter, under a bit of pressure, made a small mistake, and that was all Janis Braxock needed to capitalise. Oh, Machete getting a bit sideways out of turn 5 there. This could give an opportunity to Van den Hudding into the corkscrew. Van den Hudding late on the brakes, nearly taps the back of the Optiminal and has to reluctantly back out of a move there.
That was way too close for comfort for both drivers there.
Yeah, you could see there was a sort of concertina effect where Machete gets a little bit sideways on the curb going uphill, and then it's pushing the limits to try and keep the pack in front in sight that can lead to those sorts of mistakes, and then it can have a knock-on effect because the driver behind thinks there's an opportunity and maybe they're not quite far enough alongside. As meanwhile, David O'Reilly continues to put pressure on the Serbian driver of Mihailo Vincentievich. Vincentievich keeping the Australian at bay for now. Vincentievich tends to be quite consistent, not necessarily the quickest over 1 lap, but very, very good at defending. And round he goes at the final corner there. So that was quite literally a commentator's curse moment there, where Vincentievich, who have been defending quite well, sees not just David O'Reilly, but Zabraleki's quickly breeze past him as he gets back up to speed at the final corner.
This can either go very well or very bad for Van den Hudding, because he could lose out on a podium that he had, or he could also just keep or he could get it back from a mistake. And also Schluter now also has to catch back that P1 that he had until now.
Whoa! And onto the gravel goes Van den Hudding. Just about.
I commented requested.
Indeed, yes, just about arrest the slide in time. But has Van den Hudding maybe worked his tires a little bit too hard in these first few laps? And you can see here Canzonieri has been holding back a little bit and just watching the things play out in front of him. But I wonder if maybe he's keeping his tires alive for later in the race. We've still got half distance to go with 15 minutes or so in as we cut back to Van Leeuwen and Riboli, who've been having a pretty fantastic scrap over P6 here. Massimiliano Riboli having got through, holding on to it at the moment, but Van Leeuwen, as expected, absolutely relentless and trying to make something happen here to get another Optiminal into the top 6 here. But Massimiliano Riboli intent on keeping the valet stranglehold of 4th, 5th and 6th here intact.
Yeah, Riboli, just saw him pick up a bit of dust from the outside gravel also. So he had a bad exit compared to what Leeuwen did.
Yeah, Van Leeuwen then closing as they climb the rail straight. He's going to try and go around the outside. Will Riboli give him space? He brakes very, very late for the corkscrew. Too late, has to cut the corner entirely. And surely he's going to have to let Van Leeuwen through here. No, he does not. He cuts across the front of him into turn 9 there. And yes, certainly, I think Van Leeuwen will be feeling a little aggrieved there that Riboli decided to do more than a little bit of track extending there. That felt very Alex Zanardi-esque, wide into the final corner. Almost deliberate there from Riboli, but I don't think it was because Brandbaum is coming through as well. Side by side come the two valets. Brandbaum's got the inside and got the momentum. Amir Sweezy, who's still recovering from his collision with the wall on the first lap, is in P9 and now right behind Ribili and well in this P6 battle here. So yeah, it could be that the Cell Spot driver is looking to make a move here, and Ribili, having lost that P6 here, could find himself under even more pressure as we cut back to the top 3. It looks like Ruben Machete starting to pull away from Van den Hudding after that mistake we saw at turn 10. And Mark Schluter now under real pressure from the man who he bumped into the back of in Zandvoort. Will Ruben Machete be slightly tempted to take revenge of the man who knocked him out of the lead and into the wall?
I mean, unless he gets a penalty, I doubt it, but... I
Well,
mean,
the stewarding for the Winter Series is certainly a little more lax in the sense that we didn't do any serious investigation at all come past Zandvoort, because we thought it'd just be a lot of unnecessary... we might have been there a while, is what we're intimating. But yeah, nonetheless, Schluter now knows he's got to hold on for the remaining 10 minutes of this race or so, isn't it? It's so pixelated I can't see the time. Maybe I should...
yes. It's about 15 minutes left.
Yeah, sorry, I may have overestimated it earlier. It is 15 minutes left, so we are at half distance then. So still plenty of time for Machete to make a move as Schluter and Machete put the rear left wheels onto the gravel. So that's going to play the Braxox hands, who's now 8/10 ahead of Schluter here. And in fact, may even allow Ruben van den Hudding to get a few embers of slipstream as he goes uphill out of turn 5 and maybe catch up to the back of Ruben Machete there, who also doesn't get a great run. And that allows Schluter to pull clear once again. So it's ebbing and flowing between our top 3 here, but at the moment Braxox has really played a bit of a long game and has peaked exactly at the right moment. And now this second half of the race is all about managing things from the front and preventing Mark Schluter from getting a chance to counter-attack.
Mark Schluter is definitely hoping for a mistake as he goes wide.
Yeah, he sort of got sucked into that one, didn't he? Very late on the brakes. It looks like Edward Gleckel is not long to stay on 1 lap down. He's about to be put 2 laps down because Braxox is closing on him rapidly by about 6 seconds a lap.
I mean, unless he loses time on the blue flag, which I hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think Gleckel should notice it in time there as we cut back to Branfom, who's now starting to challenge Van Leeuwen. Van Leeuwen must be feeling annoyed because he had all that hard work to get past Ribili, and then he's got Branfom all at the back of him as Gleckel very sensibly pulls to the inside and lifts off at turn 5, and he may have to do the same coming out of turn 6 here, as there we go. Schluter is just given enough berth. It looks like Machete and Van den Hudding should make it through too before the corkscrew, as it looks like Vincentievich, I think, has hit trouble and has entered the pit lane on lap 13.
That was a pretty clean blue flag, by the way. It was pretty clean, also considering how hard it is to be a blue flag in that zone of the track.
Yeah,
This is
do
not
you
the
speak
easiest
from
part.
experience, Layla?
No, I don't speak. I speak from experience, but not as blue flag, because I've seen incidents and I've had incidents with blue flags, not knowing what line to take to be a blue flag, because the line is in the middle of the track, so either you're on the right or you're on the left. You're kind of in the middle there, so.
Well, late on the brakes there for Van den Hudding, who's now right back on the rear rein of Ruben Machete's Optiminal there. And Hele Vincentievich showing as a DNF then, so it looks like he has had damage from somewhere, and that's a big shame because he was defending really well just inside the top 10 in the early phases of this race, and it looks like he has had to abandon the feature race. So Edward Gleckel should be able to get into P14 if he can just keep going and maybe get one step closer to scoring a couple of points inside the, I think it's the top 15 in race 1 that do score points actually, so there's 2 points coming his way if he can keep going, but also a podium up for grabs for Van den Hudding, who is closing on the back of Machete as we cut back to Branfom in the middle of that train, as you can see Ribili holding off Sweezy as well in the background then. So this second phase of the race admittedly has become a little bit quieter as Edward Gleckel completely cuts the corner and comes to a stop right in front of the tyre barrier at the corkscrew then. So I'm not sure what corner he was driving. It certainly didn't look like the corkscrew there, but I guess he saw the leaders coming. Ribili spins out of turn 9 and just gets it stopped before hitting the wall there. But and he rejoins right in front. I think that was Edward Gleckel there who just slammed into the back of him. It was. So poor Ed had, I have to say, that sort of was an unsafe rejoin as well from Ribbley. So Gleckel had basically not a lot of time to react to that one. And it looks like Ribbley's continued about his rear wing. And predictably, he's had a massive 360 spin coming out of turn 1 towards the Andretti hairpin. So Ribbley maybe didn't realise that the rear wing had parted company there. That could be his race done. So that's our second retirement then. Dramatic circumstances there. And I think Ribbley, that huge mistake, costing him a chance of finishing in the top 10.
Oh, unlucky for Edward because that unsafe rejoin also affected him. That was very dangerous. Like, he could have taken both him and Edward out in that occasion.
Yeah, I think Edward is getting a new front wing put on in the pit lane at the moment. There we go. So Gleckel gets back on the pit limiter and, actually comes to a stop and then gets going again.
Might have stalled.
Exciting commentary of a man speeding up and then slowing down again in the pit lane.
Might have been a bit of a stall.
That's true. It is only his second event in FSR, so Gleckel luckily still in the race. And if he can keep going, that would be P13 and the 3 precious points to come with it then. So getting a few points, a bit of experience will maybe boost his confidence just that little bit, just to get a decent finish under his belt there. So let's cut back to our podium fight then. Ruben van den Hudding putting pressure on the back of Ruben Machete then. Ruben Machete, a World Championship Grand Prix winner in Australia and in Austria, and Ruben van den Hudding also a winner in Austria in the Pro Championship and in Singapore as well. So they're both 2-time winners last year, but in one category slightly higher than the other, although you wouldn't know it from the way Van den Hudding has been pushing in this one. He certainly put in a very impressive drive. 4th would still be his best result so far as he pushes the limits coming out of turn 9 there. Luckily he doesn't do what Ribbley did and spin off. So definitely flirting with disaster there, but Van den Hudding desperately craving that final slot on the podium and taking the risks to try and get the momentum to challenge Ruben Machete down the start-finish track.
Van den Hudding looks to be struggling more with the tires compared to the other drivers, if I might say.
Yeah, it definitely looks like the front end is ever so slightly starting to misbehave a bit in some of these corners then. And let's see, right on board through 3 and then into 4. It does look like the front end is gripping reasonably well. You can tell Machete a little bit uncomfortable with this pressure being applied to him. He's not used to, I think, having to deal with Van den Hudding all over the back of him. So yeah, definitely a new situation for him, and the Valet driver keen, because I don't think Valet have scored a podium so far. They didn't have a brilliant show of things with any of their drivers. I guess Van den Hudding and Branfom were the 2 highest. Branfom just missing out on the podium in the feature in Zandvoort with 4th position. At the moment, he is, of course, in P7 behind Van Leeuwen still, as we look to Schluter, who's back within 6/10 quicker than Braxot that last lap around. So Janus Braxot maybe starting to, as we see Van den Hudding has almost had to come to a stop coming out of turn 10 there, so I think he had a bit of a spin, but he's got going again, still ahead of his teammate Canzonieri in P4, so that could be the end of that 3rd place battle then.
Yep, it might be very much be. Because Van den Hudding was already losing on his own and making mistakes will not help his case. So, might have, I mean, still before, not that bad if you think about it.
Yeah, just under 8 minutes left to go in this feature race then, and Braxok starting to feel the pressure lap by lap as Schluter, who maybe was saving his tyres in the middle phase of the race, made a little mistake that let Braxok through, but is now starting to regroup a little bit here. And will it be the Hungarian or the German that triumphs here? Ruben Machete is about 4 seconds off the lead then, so still just within touching distance, but not quite able to challenge at the present moment. But he, of course, will breathe a bit of a sigh of relief now he hasn't got Ruben van den Hudding sort of pushing the back of his car every step of the way. Yeah, Schluter here may well start to plan his angle of attack here. So you can see Braxok, all 3 is just stepping out ever so slightly into the final corner there. So the pressure being applied to the Hungarian here, and Schluter will be licking his lips, waiting for the perfect moment to strike here. Lap 19 then. Elsewhere in the
Now it's
field. Sorry.
now it's a race of mistakes between Schluter and Braxock.
You're dead on with that one, Layla. So, Schluter having made the one mistake earlier, Braxock has kept it pretty clean so far, isn't he? But now he's the one being hunted rather than the one hunting. And as Ed Hunter, I know what that feels like. So yeah, Schluter will have the wind in his sails ever so slightly. We'll be getting a little bit of slipstream uphill as well, which could be helping him gain those few little hundredths of a second each lap. Last lap pretty even. It does look like Braxock has fought back a little bit, 15.888, whereas Schluter's at 15.837, so only slightly faster. But now Schluter's in touching distance, and I think is that Terry Crawford. They're not far off. Lapping is all very wide, and onto the dust goes Mark Schluter then. Out of turn 10 then. He's not the first to make that mistake. As you can see there, Braxock getting a little bit of slipstream off of, I believe that was Terry Crawford, and Mark Schluter not able to really take advantage there of the back market traffic.
I can confirm that was indeed Terry Crawford being lapped for the first time.
There we go, so Crawford.
And not too far, there's also Elekis and O'Reilly.
Yeah, certainly. I think Zaleki's about 31 seconds up the road though, so I don't think he's immediately in front of them. But the pace difference that they've got, it's not impossible that they could catch up, but I do think if Zabralekis keeps that out of trouble, then he should avoid being lapped in this one. Although, famous last words. But yeah, Schluter then. Just losing a little bit of momentum. The gap goes back to just over half a second then, in the middle of lap 20 here. Again, you can see Schluter a little bit more confident on the brakes, but Braxock nailing the exits as Alex Hallows goes into pit lane. Has the Typhoon driver suffered some damage? Maybe. Or is he maybe not put enough fuel in the car? That could have happened. It's a shame for him. I think he wasn't far off Zabralekis in P11. He should be able to...
He was in front of Elekis.
He was, yes, actually, he was in the top 10, so that really has cost Alex Hallows a bit. He's going to come out of the pit lane not far ahead. In fact, he'll be behind both of our leaders, so Janos Braxock breathes a sigh of relief that he doesn't have to get past the white and purple Typhoon car with Mark Schluter breathing down his neck. Yeah, certainly Ruben Machete will have to lap him into this one, you would expect. Although the gap's 7 seconds, so Machete's made a mistake of his own. Speaking of mistakes, Schluter gets all sorts of out of shape coming out of turn 3 there as he dips the rear wheels onto the gravel and then has to have some very heavy steering wheel action to get it back under control. So now Machete has fallen back into the clutches of Van den Hudding. So the third place battle isn't over yet. Do you think Ruben, realising he's probably not going to catch Braxock and Schluter in the final 3 minutes or so, has decided just to play with Ruben Van den Hudding here? Is there a bit of gamesmanship going on, or does Ruben just genuinely is up for a fight here?
No, I reckon it's a mix, honestly, but probably not the help part. I don't think that it would like help Ruben, but
I think he's toying with him in terms of slowing down to give Ruben Van Hudding a bit of a sense of hope and then pull away from him again. Just in Ruben's mind to show how good he is, but I think Ruben might think that Ruben, and I indeed am inclined to believe that Ruben maybe genuinely made a mistake there. Deep on the brakes for Braxock. The rear tyres just gripping in time there, but that was a very deep entry into the Amir Andretti hairpin there. And you can tell now Schluter, gaining back the time he lost of his mistake the previous lap, is chomping at the bit here for a chance to challenge for the lead in the dying couple of laps of this race then. How much time have we got left to go? We have only got just under 3 minutes, yeah. So only a couple more laps, and it really could go either way between Schluter and Braxock.
I mean, unless Braxock makes another mistake and Schluter goes perfectly.
Yeah, I wonder who's got their tyres in the best condition, because it is interesting to me that Schluter's able to brake so much later into the corkscrew, particularly it's so visible from the helicopter shot. But also there's just that he's taking a few more risks, as you see there, through turn 9 into turn 10 he goes, and again 2 wheels onto the sand there. So certainly maybe not the fastest lines necessarily, but yeah, Braxock will be seeing that in his rearview mirrors and starting to feel just a little bit concerned, if nothing else there. Let's cut back then to Ruben van den Hudding, who is still relentless in his pursuit of Ruben Machete, but he's running out of laps here, and I think Ruben knows that he's just got to keep it together for maybe this lap and one more.
It's fully about. Yeah, I can guess that Machete is just thinking about it's almost over, it's almost over. Like,
oh, move going on here. Oh, big crash between, is that Van Leeuwen and one of the valets there that I think he crashed into? It was Brandfom. Okay, interesting there. So, yeah, Brandfom now falls to P6 and is right in front of Sweezy then. So Sweezy, after his horrific start to the race, gaining another position. He's back exactly where he qualified then, with just over a minute left to go on the clock then. But that was very, very unexpected there. Not really sure who to apportion blame to there between Van Leeuwen and Brandfom. Wide goes Machete at the final corner. And that's again gives another opportunity to Ruben van den Hudding, who's right in the wheel tracks then as they start what could well be the final lap. I think Canzonieri's entered the pit lane as he ran out of fuel here. Oh dear. That
looks out of fuel.
Definitely. And you can see Van den Hudding desperate to at least get the other valet onto the podium. So Brandfom might still get into P5 here despite all of that happening as Canzonieri desperately tries to get into his pit box and put some more fuel in. This could potentially even allow David O'Reilly into P8 here. But look at this. Van den Hudding looking up the inside there. Schluter 7/10 down on Braxock, who's looking to take a first win in the 2026 Road to FSR Winter Series here at Laguna Seca. The clock runs out. Here comes Van den Hudding. This could be his final opportunity. Somebody's sideways. I think that was Edward Gleckel. Sideways coming out of turn 5. Here comes Van den Hudding late on the brakes to the outside. Can he make it through here? A little bit of contact. Oh, was that on the track? There we go.
That's trouble.
There we go. Coming out the final corner. It's going to be too late for Mark Schluter. Janos Braxock wins the feature race in Laguna Seca. Spectacular fight. Oh, it's all gone to grief between Machete and Van den Hudding. Van den Hudding was up in the air over the curb there. I'm not sure exactly what happened between those two. But Ruben Machete, either way, is going to hold on to the podium. Van den Hudding, impressive race by him. He's going to take his best result yet in the Winter Series in P4. As Edward Gleckel struggles to return to the track there in the background. Brandfom is going to be a distant 5th, 18 seconds behind. He's just holding off Amir Sweezy at the present moment. There they are. And has Sweezy actually got through into P6 past Van Leeuwen, I think? Indeed he has. So the misery for Van Leeuwen really compounded at the end of that race. Ooh. That's Sebralekis, I think, after crossing the line. We did see him in difficulties near the end of that one. And there's Edward Gleckel going wide. But here we go. This is the Machete Van den Hudding. So they're coming up behind. Oh! Edward Gleckel. And they both spin all over the show. And Machete gets pointed the right direction first. And oh, unfortunate. Just hits the 50-meter board, does Ruben van den Hudding, and that sends him into the air. I think he would have got third if not for that. So that was an insane finish, and I think again they just came upon the back of Ed at exactly the wrong moment through one of the fastest corners on the track.
Oh yeah, that's unlucky on that. Unlucky on all 3 of them, but mainly Ed because.
Oh! I tell you what, that was nearly 2 collisions in a row for Machete there when Van den Hudding went up in the air.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I mean, obviously unlucky for all 3, but mainly Ed because he can't do much there. Like it's the worst one.
That was the second time in the race that Ed has just been crashed into the back of. Once by Ripley and then also by Reuven. As speaking of Reuven, he's decided to crash into the tie barriers again on his lap into the pits.
No, that's Braxock.
Oh, it's Janos just celebrating. Okay, so it's not frustration, it's celebration from Janos Braxock, and justifiably so, because he really didn't put a foot wrong in that race. Frustrated to miss out on pole position by 0.08 of a second, but all it took was one mistake from Schluter, and Braxock opens his winning account. So that's going to do his championship a world of good. He was P7 in the standings on only 10 points, but that's a full 25 going his way. So he's now equal with Alex Laho in, I believe, 2nd or 3rd in the points. So I think Mark Schluter now may have taken the overall lead in the Winter Series standings. But there we go. Confirmation of the final order of the feature race. It's Janos Braxok that wins. Just 7/10 then over the line ahead of Mark Schluter. Or no, 4/10 I should say. Ruben Machete with that dramatic spin. Edward Gleckel ended up being crucial to the ending of that third place battle between Machete and Van den Hudding. They both spun. Ruben Machete just about got going first, and Ruben Van den Hudding, despite a really charging race, brilliant performance from the Dutchman, he has to settle for P4 with Brandvom, a distant but nonetheless decent drive from Danhove to take P5. Amin Sweezy recovers from 13th to 6th after a difficult opening lap. Sander van Leeuwen drops to P7 near the end despite defending well. Canzonieri ends up a pretty distant P8 after running out of fuel right at the end of the race, so he thought the race was going to be 23 laps instead of 24. Clearly, David O'Reilly brings it home in his best result we've seen in FSR today in P9, and Alex Hallows, despite having to make a pit stop himself to repair damage, we believe, to get to home in P10. So Hallows did say, watch out for me, but so he did have some good moments in that. That move on Vincentievich early on was pretty solid. Then we have in P11, Sabraleki's messy race for the Hungarian. Terry Crawford gets it home in P12, also a lap down. And then we got Edward Gleckel 3 laps down in P13, surviving that race, I think, doing well just to stay in it after being hit by everyone asunder. Then we have, sadly, not getting to the end, was Ribbley after crashing into the back of Gleckel or Gleckel crashed into the back of him when he rejoined right in front of him. And then Vincentievich, who really hit trouble. We didn't quite see what happened to Mihailo, but bad luck for the Serbian. Let's hope he comes back for the sprint race in a few minutes' time. And some news, P11 has been given reverse grid pole position, so Sabralekis is going to be your man on reverse grid pole with Alex Hallows joining him on the front row from David O'Reilly, Giuseppe Canzonieri and Sander van Leeuwen. So that's going to be fascinating to see whether Braxok, Schluter and Machete can come through from 11th, 10th and 9th respectively. Anyway, before we go to a brief ad break, Layla, your thoughts on the feature?
What?
Do you have any thoughts?
Oh, on the feature race. I
One
mean,
we just
honestly,
saw.
with the, I mean, apart from we saw good fights this race. Obviously, it was pretty clean overall. There weren't contacts as far as I'm concerned, apart from the last lap, but that's whatever. And going into the feature race, well, obviously with the Elekis now in front, there's gonna be more of a challenge for the top drivers to overtake, obviously, and we're gonna see how that goes. Also, lap traffic not being lap traffic anymore, so they are freely allowed to fight them. So if anyone gets a better start, then whoever is at the top, they might as well fight for it. So
yeah, it certainly could be very chaotic and interesting, especially at the start, especially if Zandvoort was anything to go by. But anyway, we have a few quick ads from Gridfinder and David O'Reilly's very own The Sim Racers Performance Guide to play for you now. On the other side of that, we'll get going with the sprint race here at Laguna Seca.
The SimRacers Performance Guide, your guide to race setup, strategy, driver performance. Dive in deep, learn about suspension, aero, braking, drivetrain, with a 77-page manual packed full of hours of video tutorials as well. Learn how to fully engineer your setup and get more from your sim. Written and tested by real-world racing drivers, proven in Formula Sim Racing and VEC. Understand and optimize it all with the SimRacers Performance Guide. Quote FSR for a 20% discount off the normal €10 price.
Welcome back to Laguna, Seca in California in the USA. My name is Edward Hunter. I'm still joined by Layla, Petraglia, and our broadcast director, Amir Oates. This is the standings going into this one. So with the points applied from that first race, I believe the standings should look like... I believe it is Mark Schluter leading on 46 points. Having scored 21, finishing second. Brandfarm, I forget where Brandfarm finished. But he's the next one. I guess we'll just have to wait. This is probably not the most televisual way of doing this. Yeah, I can tell you that Alex Laho, on account of not being here, is probably not the overall leader in the standings. Yeah, so Dana Brandfarm finished 5th and got 12 points. So he is on, I think, 30. So that puts him still behind Alex Laho. And Giannis Braxton was on 10 points. He is, I think, equal with Alex Laho on 35 points. So, yeah, I believe the order should be Schluter on 46, Brandfarm on 30. No, it'd be Laho and Braxel both on 35, and then Brandfarm on 30, I think, is your top 4. Unless, is anyone... Oh, right, Van den Hudding was 4th, wasn't he? Yeah, Van den Hudding was about 4 points behind Brandfarm. So 14 plus 15 is 29. So he's a point behind as well. So that is your top 5. But anyway, we're not far away from start of the sprint race with, of course, Sabra Alekis and Alex Hallows on the front row. And Alekis will be keen to put the disappointment of race 1 behind him. Alex Hallows, I wonder maybe if the reverse grid race was in the back of his mind. There we go. And confirmation of exactly what I was saying. Schluter, 46 points. Pardon me. Laho, 35, along with Janos Braxok. Dano Brandfarm on 30, a point ahead of Ruben van den Hudding. Lloyd Moynier down to 6th. Amin Sweezy is up to P7. Lucas Murno down to P8. Ruben Machete with his first actual points finish in the Winter Series up to P9 with that 3rd place. And Canzanieri rounding out the top 10. So, looks like the grid is forming up at the present moment then. And this is going to be fascinating to see because I think our top 3 are very much the underdogs in this one. Despite the fact that because of the reverse grid, they start in the first 3 positions. Alekis, Hallows, O'Reilly. I think everyone expects them to fall back, but the likes of Canzanieri in 4th is certainly, because of his running out of fuel at the end, is in a higher position than he otherwise would be. Van Leeuwen as well, I think could be a bit of a threat. And then we got the likes of Sweezy, Brandfarm, Van Hudding, Machete, Schluter and Braxel, with those last 3 going to be very, very keen to slice through the field very quickly and sort of stay out of trouble here. As we see the formation lap beginning then, Zabalekis in the optimal, leading away from reverse grid pole position then. The optimal, of course, did take their first win of the Winter Series just a few moments ago with Janos Braxok. Can Zabalekis add to that, or will the likes of Braxok and Machete slice through the field and have to do the job themselves? We wait and see. Our front row then, Zabalekis joined by Alex Hallow for Typhoon eSports. David O'Reilly and Giuseppe Canzanieri make up row 2, with Canzanieri certainly going to be the danger man in these opening phases. Van Leeuwen and Amin Sweezy on row 3. Sweezy, we're hoping for a cleaner start this time around. It's an all-valley row 4 with Brandfarm and Van den Hudding making up those positions. In row 5, we've got Ruben Machete and Mark Schluter, our new championship leader, rounding up the top 10 with Braxok, our race 1 winner in P11, just ahead of Terry Crawford, who just missed out on the reverse grid draw. Edward Gleckel is P13 with Mihailo Vincentievich rounding out the field in 14th. So we've lost one of our 15 today as we see a seagull fly across the frame, which is quite nice. It's Massimiliano Riboli that we've lost, of course. So clearly, I think Massimiliano is not in the best mood after the collision with Van Leeuwen in that previous race.
Don't blame him, honestly. It was like it's unlucky, but yeah.
Yeah, certainly unfortunate, I think, for both parties involved. But yeah, certainly Van Leeuwen starting in the top 5 will hope for better this time around. I think Riboli, knowing having retired with his later mistake as well, knows that he would have had to start from the back anyway, so the reverse grid would not have really played into his hands. Anyway, brake issues we're hearing. So Massimiliano Ruboli apparently had issues with his brakes, which is why he's had to pull out. So that's a big shame for the Italian, but we hope to see him back for the finale at Donington next Sunday, which will of course be the final Winter Series race before we shift focus to the World Championship and opening up sign-ups for that as well, which is going to be very, very exciting indeed. But the grid is about to form up here. You can see Zabraleki's powering through. Long way ahead of Alex Hallowes. Hallowes is holding up the rest of the pack behind him. You can see Mihailo Vincentjevic in 14th and last, also giving a bit of a wide berth to the cars in front. And now slotting in to... Oh, has he gone a bit too far forward? Ahead of Edward Gleckel.
I think he'll shoot it.
Yeah, maybe he'll just have to reverse a bit out of that one. But either way, tension building now. The final race of the day about to get going. Can Zabraleki's hold on into the first corner? Will Alex Hallowes be able to take advantage? Or can David O'Reilly, our race director extraordinaire, pull a surprise? The red lights are on. Out they go. And the last race of the day begins as Sweezy goes round the outside and gets tapped into a spin.
Uh-oh.
Huge drama there. And who's involved in that one? It's Amir Sweezy. Looks like Vincentjevic has lost his front wing. Sander van Leeuwen is involved in that as well. And it looks like Terry Crawford indeed has lost a bit of time. And Van den Hudding, crucially, after his brilliant first race, in trouble again. And look at this. It's absolute bedlam then as they go for turn 3. Oh, and Hallowes hits Machete. Machete had made a brilliant start, and now he's facing the wrong way in the wall at turn 4. So he just locked wheels with Alex Hallowes. We didn't see exactly how that started, but I think it's just a misjudgment from both drivers. So Sweezy back up to P8 already as Edward Gleckel gets spun around in the background at turn 5 there. Goodness, not really sure where
What
to
a
look.
chaotic race start.
Yeah, Zabraleki's either way holds on to the lead from David O'Reilly. Dano Brandfond is now up to P3 with Braxot from P11 up to P4 with Schluter right behind him in P5. Then it's Cantoneri, Sweezy, Van Leeuwen, Hallowes and Edward Gleckel rounding out your top 10. Van den Hudding, after crashing at the start, him and Vincentjevic are out of this one.
Yeah, I mean, also unlucky for Schluter because out of all the chaos, he lost the position that he had gained on Braxot.
Now look at this, Brandfond all over the back of O'Reilly. Sorry to cut across you, Layla, but Dano Brandfond was really only 2 tenths behind and going up the inside of the Seven Arrows driver. The Australian leaves just enough room, and Dano Brandfond, the Super Swede, is up to P2, and O'Reilly is about to lose another place because here comes our race 1 winner, Braxot, forcing him wide, and O'Reilly's getting mugged corner after corner by the front runners. Leaves just enough room there for Canzonieri to slot through as well. So yeah, Giuseppe Canzonieri did lose a bit of ground at the start, but is now starting to recover as we see Edward Gleckel right in the thick of the action with Ruben Machete and Terry Crawford now all over the back of him. So Machete has kept going despite that awful start where he got knocked out a second in the collision with Alex Hallowes.
Yeah, we're seeing Schluter, the unlucky one, because out of all the lap 1 chaos, he lost the grid advantage that he had on Braxot,
Yeah,
which
he's
could have
sort of
potentially helped him.
Rerun of the first race now, the ending of the first race where he was trailing Braxot, except there's now 3 cars ahead of them. So Brandfond will be desperate to hold 2 cars, I should say, ahead of both of them. There's 3 cars ahead of Schultz today. But Brandfond now 3.8 seconds behind Alekis, who sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:16.0. So Zabraleki's has really taken advantage of this, and at the moment Dano Brandfond is his best friend because he's holding up the leaders a bit and forcing them to stick to his pace. So if Janos Braxot can't clear Brandfond quickly, Zabraleki's could build a huge buffer, and that potentially could really help him in the second half of the race. Meanwhile, here is Amir Sweezy, who's closing on the back of David O'Reilly. Interestingly, Hallowes actually set the fastest lap of the race last time around, down in 9th, 1:16.048, slightly faster than Alecki. So, of course, he's got the clear air there, trying to catch up to Van Leeuwen in that battle for P8 then. So good to see Alex Hallowes, despite these issues on the first lap, not giving up, as Sweezy trying to pick which way he's going to go around David O'Reilly into the corkscrew and deciding to hang back for the time being.
O'Reilly is actually holding up pretty well.
Yeah, he did get mugged very, very quickly by the leaders, but I think there wasn't really a whole lot of point battling them for too much. As we see up the inside into turn 11, late on the brakes goes Amir Sweezy, and that was a textbook move. And you can see there, O'Reilly just being a bit cautious means he loses another place to Sander Van Leeuwen, who's up the inside, side by side. They go down the start-finish straight. Van Leeuwen has got the inside for turn 1 and for the Andretti hairpin. O'Reilly tries to go a bit later on the brakes, but realizes the battle is lost, and he is down to P8 with a huge scrap behind Brandfall of Braxok, Schluter and Canzonieri. It's a valet breaded sandwich here. They are starting to tighten the net here, and Braxok and Schluter are caught right in the middle here.
And we're back at the race of mistakes here, because if Braxok, while trying to overtake whoever he has in front, if he gets damaged, that's over for him.
Yeah, Dano Branfom starting to match the lap times of Zabraleki, so the lead staying stable at 4.1 seconds at the moment here. So Zabraleki's is not quite pulling away to the tune of a couple of seconds per lap like he was on the opening tours. As we cut to a replay then. Giuseppe Canzonieri, by the way, has the fastest lap of the race. This is a replay of what happened at the start. So O'Reilly got a very slow getaway, and I think that must have been, was it Van Leeuwen that had to swerve across to avoid it? Yeah, Van Leeuwen is right behind, and then taps into one of the valets, and then Sweezy almost gets tagged around and has to have a big adventure on the gravel. There goes one of the front wings, I think, of Vincentievich. Yeah, I think it was Van den Hudding. Yeah, Van den Hudding really losing out big time at the start of this one.
And Vicentovic also waited, but still got caught up.
Oh, he was the one who hit the back of Van den Hudding.
Yeah.
You can tell the suspension taking a bit of a knock there as well. But Braxok, by the way, so that's fastest lap of the race while we're watching this. He's all over the back of Dano Branfom. This is on board with, I think, Terry Crawford, who avoided all the chaos at the first corner. Is that Gleckel? Oh, it's Ed. Oh, good start from Edward Gleckel there. And then, he goes a little bit wide into the hairpin and sees one of the valets just nip up the inside, and then Edward Gleckel gets a bit of a grandstand view of all the chaos. So we're about to see Hallows and Machete, I think, tangle ahead of us. Yep, that's happening right there. Hallows just avoids rejoining in front of Edward Gleckel. I think Edward nearly got flashbacks to the first race there, and now comes Amir Sweezy up the inside. Oh, it was Vincentievich. Oh, who died right out front wing into the back of him.
Yeah. With no front wing going for a move there, it's not the best idea.
Not the most polite move that Vincentievich has ever made, especially given that he retired about 30 seconds later. Yeah, Machete definitely still on a bit of a fight back here. 2.8 seconds behind Hallows, but no doubt with a very damaged optimal Hatas F3 chassis there. Meanwhile, Branfom, he's actually holding up Braxok quite convincing, and now Schluter is closing in as we see Terry Crawford has decided to wave bye-bye to his front wing here, and that has dropped him out of 11th position. Or potentially could well do. Over the curb. Oh, and he goes flying. So that wasn't really entirely within Terry's control there. That was a bit of an airplane moment for his...
He might have suspension damage from that as well, if I had to take a wild guess.
That looks like Van den Hudding retiring after the start. So this is a replay of what we already saw. He's so out of control, having been hit in the back by Vincentievich, that he also taps Sweezy again. And this is I think about to see Terry take off there.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, up the inside of Hallows comes David O'Reilly. I think that's Alex Hallows actually finally getting past David there. As we cut back to Braxok and Schluter side by side into the Andretti hairpin. Schluter tries to go the long way round, and he's very much shown the door. Here comes Canzonieri in the background as well, starting to put the pressure on there. So Valet are working very, very well to control this podium fight here. They've got Branfom in the front, and then Canzonieri looking to take advantage of any slip-ups from Schluter in front of him. Oh, and one of the terminals, that's Van Leeuwen in the gravel. And that's, I think, lets Sweezy through into P6. Just went too wide coming out of turn 4. And Amir Sweezy, very gratefully, pulls a huge gap now over him. So Sweezy's not far away from this podium fight, actually, despite being sideways and all out of shape. Having to get all sorts of drama at the start there. He's having another fantastic recovery drive, is our Tunisian friend.
And Oates at this train is slowly catching up on Alekis. Alekis was already lapping somebody also.
Yeah, still 3.2 seconds ahead is Sabra Alekis, who's not being caught like some might have expected him to be. He's already lapped Crawford and Galekal. Could be, I think Ruben Machete is still quite way ahead of him though, as we see Braxok having to defend once again from Mark Schluter, who breaks very, very late on the outside. They make contact! My goodness, that was very aggressive there. And this time, Janis Braxok sees it coming and doesn't have to feed Mark Schluter into the gravel on exit.
Mark probably getting a bit impatient about being behind him.
Yeah, I think because they're handing this race to Alekis, the more they're getting stuck behind Bramfall. So Sabra Alekis knows he just has to keep lapping consistently. Even in the sort of mid-16s, low 16s, they're not catching him quickly enough at the present moment.
I mean, in the last 2 laps, he lost 2 seconds. And they have about maybe 4 laps still.
True. 5 minutes could disappear very quickly here, especially if Braxok and Schluter start fighting each other rather than Bramfall in front of them. So Valet have really managed this one well, and Bramfall is putting in a brilliant, almost Van den Hudding-esque defensive drive here, as we see Schluter again contemplating a do-or-dive move up the inside into 11 and deciding to back out. You can see Alekis there just in the foreground, escaping up the road, trying to keep that 2.6 second gap to Bramfall intact here. And now we see Braxok has got to run up the inside. Bramfall makes a huge mistake, goes wide. Through goes Schluter as well. And I was just praising Bramfall when he made one crucial mistake, run slightly too late into the Andretti hairpin. So easy to do, and that has handed Braxok P2, and now he's free to chase down his teammate with 4 minutes left on the clock.
But also, what a send from Schluter, who was all the way back and caught up to them, almost going into the back of Braxok as well.
Well, remember all that team unity at Valet I was talking about? I think that's not going to last, because Canzonieri is fancying a run down at Bramfall now. And he gets a good run out of 5, uphill towards the corkscrew. And again, Canzonieri decides to brake early and focus on his exit there. Meanwhile, Schluter sticks right to the back of Braxok like dried glue here as he attempts to get involved in the lead battle once more. It's amazing to think that our world champion is yet to win in these opening few Winter Series events of the season, because he's been so strong, particularly in qualifying as well. But his luck has not always been on his side. The best result are 2 P2s in the feature races. Here comes Canzonieri, focusing on the back of Bramfall, and he dives out up the inside in that battle for P4. It looks like Canzonieri had to just back out then, so Bramfall is leaving a bit of a wall behind him.
I think mistake from Alekis. Look at the gap. It was 2 seconds.
I think he had an off track because it's not showing his previous lap, so the pressure's starting to get to him, and his countryman and teammate is slowly closing in the background. Janis Braxok looking to make it 2 in a row. He's looking to do what Alex Laho did at Zandvoort, win both races. And that is not an ideal situation. You can tell Alekis now that he hasn't got Bramfall building that buffer behind him. He is really starting to let the pressure just affect his driving here. And if Alekis makes a big mistake here, that could also play into the hands of Schluter. So the top 3, it's really tense right now as we cut to Sweezy closing on the back of Bramfall. He's about 2.4 seconds behind at the present moment. There is Canzonieri, who has lost his front wing completely. So Canzonieri, he was right behind Bramfall, and it's all gone wrong for him. So has he gone too far over the curb as well at turn 6? Yes, he has. Yeah. And he's had almost identical incident to Terry Crawford.
Hopefully no suspension damage, because that was more on the wheel, towards the wheel than...
Whoa! Big incident! And that's Alekis round. Schluter takes the lead. So right as we come back from the replay, they all come together at the hairpin, and Mark Schluter now leads by 1.7 seconds over Braxok, with Bramfall in 3rd. Sweezy is now up to 4th, amazingly.
I would love to rewatch that. Yeah.
There we go. That's just a bit unfortunate, the timing of the replay. Yeah, so side by side, Braxok up the inside, tangles wheels almost. No! There's a bit of a lag spike or miscommunication, and Alekis gets hit in the rear by Braxok, I think.
Yep, Braxok trying to go for a move. Alekis defends, and Yeah, better exit and pushes me out, pushes him off, which gains Schluter over 2 seconds basically.
You could sort of feel that one coming, that Schluter was going to see how things played out, and it could not have gone more perfectly for him there. But Braxton, to his credit, not giving up, only 1.3 seconds behind, but he's only got a minute left to try and retake the lead here. Yep, this is the last lap of the race then, and Schluter, who I had said yet to win a race in the Winter Series, I think he's looking to change that in the next few moments. Wow. What did, yeah, well, fate certainly hurt me, I think. As Amir thinks that, I think Mark didn't exactly use his brain or telekinetic powers to make both Optiminals crash into each other. Although maybe he has that power, I don't know. It would explain how he became world champion so convincingly last season. If he can make people do that on command. I've tried that as a commentator.
Ancient magic.
Yeah, you have to say nice things about people for them to mess up. That is my experience as a commentator, so maybe that's just what you do. But anyway, Zabralecki's still in the race, and he's got Van Leeuwen all over the back of him. So our three recovering Optiminals. Van Leeuwen goes very, very wide, and that could be it then in the battle for P5. So Alecki's is at least going to hold on to that. But Mark Schluter then, well, he is the reigning world champion. He really played his cards right. He may have been just pipped to the post in the first race, but in the sprint race, it's all falling into hands for the man who has stealthily put his way into the championship lead. He's going to extend it with a win in the sprint here at Laguna Seca. Braxok has to settle for P2. Branfon gets Valley's first podium in the Winter Series in P3. Amir Sweezy, despite falling almost to last at the start of that one, gets into a brilliant P4, and Zabralecki's, oh, what could have been for the Hungarian. That one tangle with him and Braxok costing both of them victory in the end. Van Leeuwen takes P6. Machete had all sorts of issues on the first lap of that collision between him and Hallows. Does recover to P7. Hallows, to his credit, also in P8. O'Reilly is going to take P9, and Canzanieri is going to round out the top 10 after himself having... That does not look like a healthy car he's piloting around. But well done to him to getting it to the end there.
And the last one to finish, Edward, who unluckily crossed the line before the leaders. So he's going to have to do an extra lap.
Well, at least nobody is going to hit the back of him or randomly spin in front of him. So Edward has got the track to himself then. But there we go. No, isn't, because the leaders are still coming through to into the pits.
Yep.
There we go, but now he's got no one in front of him. So Edward Gleckel does improve on his best finish in race 1 with P12, but sadly, points only go to the top 8 in the reverse grid race. So Ed, nonetheless, should feel proud of that performance.
Yep. Also, Schluter in the last lap at the fastest lap already. So
1:15.450, yes. So a pretty impressive day for Schluter. Pole and second in race 1, and then goes from P10 to P1 in race 2, and same the fastest lap along the way. Right at the end, once he had to clear air, which, but I think even he would not have predicted Braxok and Alecki's to tangle into each other. So drama all the way in Laguna Seca. Let's look at the final results of our second Winter Series event. So, Road to FSR continues. It's our reigning world champion Mark Schluter that ends the day victorious from Janos Braxok. And that means, of course, that Schluter extends his lead in the overall standings. Anna Branfon is third for Valet after defending well, but one mistake really let Braxok and Schluter through. We so easily could have been talking about Branfon or Alecki's winning this one. And Amir Sweezy as well. What a great recovery drive from him. After an also impressive recovery drive to 6th from 13th in the first race, he's gone from basically last to 4th in this one as well. And behind him and Zabralecki's, we have Santa Van Leeuwen and Ruben Machete, all three Optiminals, I think, a little bit unlucky and losing a lot of ground that they hoped to finish on at least on the podium in this one. Alex Hallows started on the front row, tangled with Machete at the start, but kept with it, and his reward is P8. David O'Reilly slowly dropped down the field from the second row and ended up finishing P9. And Giuseppe Canzanieri, all sorts of problems for the Italian, but he does get it home in P10. and unfortunately just misses out on the final couple of points along with David O'Reilly. Also missing out were Terry Crawford in P11 and Edward Gleckel in 12th. Not getting to the end after early damage were Vincentievich and Ruben van den Hudding crashed into each other. Very disappointing for van den Hudding after a strong first downing of the day in the feature. So, we might be able to have a look at what that's done for the championship. You can see there, Mark Schluter now 13 points ahead of Janos Braxok on 56 points to Braxok's 43. Anno Branfom has now moved up to third on 36 points, just one ahead of Alex Loho. So Alex Loho only down to fourth despite missing the whole event today, which shows you what taking maximum points at Zandvoort has done for him. Ruben van den Hudding is P5. And I think anybody more than 35 points behind Schluter is out of contention mathematically. So 56 minus 35 is, of course, 21. So that means everybody down to Moynier is still in mathematical contention. But sadly, Ruben Machete has been knocked out of it. But we also should acknowledge behind Loho, we've got Van den Hudding in 5th, Amin Sweezy 6th, Lloyd Moynier P7, Ruben Machete in P8, Lucas Murno, who was absent today, in P9, and Van Leeuwen is just a point behind him, rounding out the top 10 in P10. And if you want to see the full Winter Series standings, you can always look on the FSR website, where it's on our results page. So, just one more event to go at Donington Park next Sunday, and then we're going to announce, of course, the World Championship, which we know everybody is very, very excited about. But a very entertaining race, Layla. Your final thoughts then after a pretty chaotic end and beginning to the sprint race?
Obviously, great racing from everybody. It was somewhat clean for, apart from the start, which was a bit of unlucky because it was caused by a slower start. But yeah, looking forward to the next race, Donington Park, which is a track I absolutely love. It was my debut track, so looking forward to it. And yeah, absolutely looking forward to how this championship will end, if Mark Schulter will get it or if it's Braxok. And yeah, or maybe an Alex Leho comeback, who knows?
Well, let's hope so, because it's always entertaining when Alex is around. And Lloyd Moynier as well, he was also very strong in that opening race. But of course, with the Winter Series, people just show up when they're available, and it's just good to have new drivers as well taking part. So if you're watching this and you fancy getting involved, feel free to get involved via our Discord page and on the forums. There's a couple of links in the description to a few of those, as well as to our partners. So that's our second Winter Series. The road to FSR is almost over. Just 2 more races in our final event at Donington Park left to go. So thank you to you, Layla, for joining me in commentary. My thanks to Amir in broadcast direction, and to Thomas Lenz and everybody in race direction, and indeed to all 15 drivers that took part today. So Donington left to go. Congrats again to our winners of Janos Braxok and Mark Schluter, who is going to be our Road to FSR champion. Tune in next weekend, next Sunday, to find out. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye from Laguna, Seca.